It sounds weird, grammatically speaking, but God's personal holy name is I am. Welcome back to the Good Book Club for Exodus chapter 3.
Yes, indeed. And what's happening in Exodus 3?
Exodus 3 is right after God heard their call that he was going to do something, and we go back to Moses where he was tending his father-in-law's flock of sheep, and he sees this strange sight. What was the strange sight?
It's a very, 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 very strange sight, which was the burning bush.
The burning bush. And why did it fascinate Moses?
Well, because it was burning and not shrinking or anything decaying. But fire is not being consumed by the fire. And yeah, this is the famous burning bush. I think also the only burning bush that was not consumed.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
It's such a cool story, and Moses said, I must see this because he didn't understand why it was not being consumed. And when he went closer, the angel of the Lord said, Moses, and he said, here I am, and he says, don't come any closer, take off your shoes, it's holy ground.
Take off your sandals, wait.
Why did he take off his shoes?
I'm taking off my Crocs.
I'm taking off my slippers.
On the cold floor.
Oh, that is cold.
It's winter now, yeah.
But why did he take off his shoes?
Because of holy ground.
Okay, what does holy mean again?
Holy means set apart. So in that presence of God, because it was God who's the burning bush.
In the burning bush.
The burning bush.
In the burning bush.
In the burning bush. Holy ground. So therefore that space and time is set apart from the rest of the world, basically.
And taking off your shoes was a sign of respect. Some people still do it in other religions as well,
Yes.
where if you're at their temple, they ask you to take off your shoes.
Or even houses.
Or even houses, that's very true.
Yes.
And he took off his shoes as a sign of respect, and then he identifies himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Who was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob?
You tell me.
Okay, so Abraham, his name was Abram, which means exalted father. Then it was Abraham, which means father of nations. And he was really old, they couldn't get children. Long story short, they waited 25 years and they finally got Isaac. And Isaac means he laughs. Because they laughed at the fact that God told them you're going to get a child. Then they laughed at the thought of it. But then they did get Isaac. Then Isaac got Jacob. Jacob means deceiver because he deceived his dad and his brother.
Oh, wow.
And then Jacob's name changed to Israel, which means wrestle with God. So technically, it's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel.
Wow.
But Jacob and Israel is used interchangeably as well throughout.
Okay, cool. And I have one question for you. Would you like to share your testimony when you walked bare feet?
That's true. I was at our local church in Pierre van Reineveld, and she gave a sermon about the burning bush. And then she challenged us, take off your shoes for like a week to become aware of God is with you. You are standing on holy ground because God is present. I ended up doing it for at least a month. And I didn't like walking bare feet because it kind of grossed me out to walk bare feet and stuff. And at that time, I went everywhere bare feet, even to the shops or jogging bare feet. I only put on my shoes on the camp when we went inside a cave just to have grip. But the rest of the time, I was bare feet. And what was cool was, it was in the time when I was in school, people would ask me, why are you bare feet? And then I got to tell them why. And that was actually a really cool way to get to talk about God. And it really helped me to become aware of God is present. And you can really feel a difference if you just walk bare feet for a month.
Oh,
It was really awesome.
Of course.
I really enjoyed it.
It's a very cool story.
I love the story. And then it's always fun to make it your own, you know? And Exodus is one of my favorite books, and Moses being one of my favorite characters as well. And he took off his sandals, and then God just told him, I have seen the misery of my people, and I have come down to take them to the land of the Canaanites. And he names all the people, the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And then he says, you must go to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt. And then Moses said, who am I that I should go and bring them out? And God says, I will be with you, and this will be the sign. that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship me on this mountain, which was the mountain of Horeb.
Horeb.
Horeb. So that was the goal of Moses: get the people out, come back to this mountain to worship him.
And the mountain is in Canaan with all the
Midian.
ites.
No, Midian.
Midian.
Remember, he was in Midian,
All
so
right.
the mountain of Horeb was there.
Okay. So what's with Canaan to do then?
Canaan was the promised land.
Okay.
So they first had to do that before they went into the promised land. It says here in verse 1 that he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God, which was in Midian, where he was when he fled away from Egypt. And then Moses kept on making excuses and says, suppose the people ask me what God did, what God sent me, what should I tell them is your name? And then he says, I am who I am. Or,
I am.
yes, I
Period.
am. Or it's translated, I will be what I will be, because he says here, I am has sent me to you. It sounds weird, grammatically speaking, but God's personal holy name is I am.
That's really cool because I am, that can be anything. I am the burning bush. I am the ground. I am
Or,
he.
or I am the bread of life. I'm the way, the truth, and the life.
So he's
I'm
everything.
referencing John.
You
Remember?
are. Yes.
So in John, he said 7 times I am with a statement attached to it.
Yes.
And then 7 other times he just said I am, revealing that Jesus is God. And here is the link towards chapter 3 of Exodus,
Wow.
which is one of the reasons why we wanted to do Exodus, is because of that natural link between I am.
One of the many reasons.
One of the many reasons. So I absolutely love this name. And he says, go and assemble the elders, verse 16. I have promised your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, that his descendants would go into the promised land. And he says that they must take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to make sacrifices to the Lord your God. And the interesting thing is, when you see Lord capital letters in your English translation,
I didn't notice it until you mentioned it yesterday. So you have Lord with a normal size font, capital L, and then in the smaller parts, there's also capital letters, just smaller, which is very interesting. And then other times, then it's also just as we usually would spell it.
So
what's the difference between the two?
So if Lord, if all 4 letters are capitalized, it's in Hebrew it would be Yahweh. And if it's Lord where just the L is capitalized, then the rest is small lowercase letters, that is Adonai in Hebrew. So when it says Lord capitalized, that's referring to Yahweh, God's personal holy name.
What does
And
Yahweh mean?
Yahweh, I can't remember what it exactly means, but it says here in verse 15, where is it? Say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers. The footnote says, Lord sounds like and may be related to I am. Oh, right, that's true. Capitalized Lord is connected to the name I am who I am. So that's his personal name. So you can also, every time when you see Lord capitalized, think of the name I am.
Okay.
Because God is a God who is. He is not dependent on time.
Yes.
He always is and always will be. That's why it can also be translated, I will be what I will be. Because God was in the past, he is now, and he
He's
forever
also in
will
the future,
be.
yes.
He was never born, he just is. It's a weird concept, but God is,
God is.
if you think about it.
Ak is.
So, Lord capitalized means, Lord capitalized is Yahweh, and it's also connected to the name I am. So it's actually a really cool detail.
It is, yeah.
Because when I didn't notice, I always wondered why is the one capitalized and the one's not. And that's the reason why. If it's just the L capitalized, then it refers to the Hebrew word Adonai.
But it also shows, like, comment if you have noticed it, because I haven't noticed it and many other people have not noticed it that I'm aware of. That just shows we just read, we don't pay attention to what is standing in the Bible in front of you.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is every time it says Lord capitalized, I would rather say Yahweh, just so that you know the difference. And I think when it's just has the L capitalized, I will say Adonai. Adonai can also mean master. That's the other translation of
Okay.
Adonai. And when it says God, that would be El Shaddai.
El Shaddai.
So Yahweh El Shaddai is Lord God.
Okay.
Yeah, just some interesting, cool things about it. From here on out, in verse 19, he says, I know that the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. I will stretch out my hand and strike the Egyptians with all the wonders that I will perform. After that, he will let you go. What is he talking about?
Letting go the people, the slaves
And
from
the
Egypt.
and the wonders part, what's that?
The wonders. Is he foreshadowing the battle of the gods?
Yes, he is. The Battle of the Gods. It's actually
It's a really
so
cool
cool.
title,
It's a
actually.
very cool title. Exodus, the Battle of the Gods. That can really work well. And people thinking, wait, what? Because the 10 plagues attacked 10 different Egyptian gods, including Pharaoh. And their
Yeah.
number one god, which is the sun god, called Ra.
The lunar eclipse. No,
The what?
solar eclipse.
Oh. Why are you saying solar eclipse?
Because that's what caused darkness today.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay. But it's actually cool because he foreshadows the plagues. And just like in John, he did a lot of foreshadowing. Exodus does the same. I'm getting the idea that God likes to foreshadow.
He loves
He
doing that
really
and
loves doing that.
referencing to everything,
It's so cool.
linking interconnectedness. That's his signature.
That is his signature. And he even says in verse 21 that he will make the Egyptians favorably disposed towards the people so that you will not leave empty handed. Every woman is to ask her neighbor for articles of silver, gold, and clothing, which you will put on your sons and daughters, so you will plunder the Egyptians. And it's weird because you would think after 10 plagues, the Egyptians would just let them go and not see them anymore. But usually, when a slave went free, they would be given gold or something to be able to have something to start their new life. And this is also a reference and a setup for later in Exodus when they used the clothing and the gold and silver to make the Ark of the Covenant, the tabernacle, the golden lampstand, and so forth,
Spoiler alert.
including the golden calf.
Wow.
Yeah, that's chapter 3.
Chapter 3. All right.
All right. We will see
Okay.
you in chapter 4 as the conversation at the burning bush continues.